27 Kane here today, and we're doing a review of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate for the Nintendo Switch. Let's do a little bit of an overview and figure out what this game is all about. Well, this is a direct port of a 3DS game that came out not long after the Switch came out. This is the Ultimate version, which contains all of the 3DS content, plus an all-new G-Rank, if you will, and updated content to go along with that. It adds a lot to the game, a tremendous amount to the game, and I would argue is by far the definitive edition of it. So if there's any way to experience this game, if you're a Monster Hunter fan, this is by far and away the best way to play this game. Not only having all the updated graphics, we have everything else. So let's do the gameplay. First up, well, the gameplay in this is essentially an action RPG without a leveling system. Everything takes place through upgrading your gear and completing quests. The whole emphasis is on taking down these gigantic monsters and using their body parts to build new weapons and armor, but there is a storyline that follows along with it, and it keeps everything moving at a fairly brisk pace. Not only is every monster unique and all of its patterns unique, but a lot of the environments and their habitats and where they choose as territories are fairly unique as well. It's pretty interesting when you see monsters overlap and cross over, as they will in later ranks of the game, and confuse you from time to time, but it's a blast and adds a whole new edge and air to the game. The other element that I need to add about this is that not only does it have an awesome single-player mode, but it has a fantastic online cooperative mode. There is no PvP in this game, or PvE. It is all against the computer. You set up in teams of 4 and you go to take down a monster. It doesn't sound like it's very interesting, but in my opinion, this is my favorite type of online game. I love working with other people to take down large obstacles. And the developers of this game did a fantastic job making every single creature unique, so that way they're a puzzle that you have to endeavor upon. And having to work together as a team in the very latest ranks of G-Rank and fight the toughest monsters certainly gives you a certain feeling of accomplishment when you have the weapons and armor to go back and just destroy every other creature in the game. The last thing I need to mention about this gameplay is that everything is timed and purposeful, so if you're not a patient person and not willing to learn, don't try it. So let's talk about story now. So the story in this game is kind of a hodgepodge of everything that came before it. It contains just about every village and every main chieftain and their little stories to go along with it. I would say the dominant storyline has a lot to do with Monster Hunter 4 with the Gore Magala here and the virus that you deal with. But a lot of this is kind of patchwork together because this is kind of a anniversary, a collection of all the games that came before it. And this really pays a good homage while adding new mechanics to fighting a bunch of old monsters. I believe this has the largest roster, or one of the largest rosters in the Monster Hunter series, and there's a lot to experience here. It's really just a huge homage to all of the greatness that came before it, and the story is not really a prevalent element. If you look to that, you might be a little bit disappointed. But let's move on now to a little bit more fun category in my opinion, the combat. So the combat in this game requires quite a bit of patience. I'm not gonna lie, this still has a bunch of the old Monster Hunter pieces to it, but it does have a ton of the speed and movement and momentum that you have in some of the newer Monster Hunters. One of the things I really like about the combat in this game is it has a ton of different arts or styles you can utilize, whereas in multiplayer, I can play a little more defensively and I can stand back. In single player, I can play a lot more aggressively and offensively. I utilize the aerial style and it keeps me away from the enemy. It allows me a bunch of extra iframes without wasting skill slots on my armor. On top of that, having the ability to upgrade and create all this new equipment and weapons really gives you a ton of new variation and skills to go along with everything. I didn't really necessarily have to patchwork as many armors in this game as I did in some of the previous ones to get the skills I wanted. The game really does offer you really good skills for each set, so I really feel this is the perfect division line and the epitome of old Monster Hunter mixed with new. And if you really enjoyed Rise, this is a great game to go back to and kind of see the building blocks to it. So let's talk about controls and audio now. So let's start out with the audio. And the audio coming from a 3DS game to a Switch game and being adapted to stereo sound on your TV sounds absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Every creature has its own distinguished sound and sound effect to go along with its animations and states of whether it's angry or not. Let's show a little bit of it off now. Pretty awesome, huh? Let's talk controls real quick. And I believe this is the most difficult part for most people who are going to try this game out. The controls are very old school and they require a ton of patience, so you have to give them a chance, but they do work well for what they're doing. So graphics and animations now. Well, as far as the graphics and animations go, you gotta remember at the end of the day, this is a 3DS game that they brought up fairly quickly to give us G rank and make us happy while we were waiting on them to finish Rise. I personally think they did a great job on it. The frame rate is very stable. I never had any performance issues, and when I was online, I never attributed anything to lag or problems there. The game functioned very, very well for me. I know there are a ton of complaints and a lot of people don't think this game looks good, but considering it is a 3DS game and they basically tripled the definition to give it to us for what it is, I think they did a pretty darn good job and I'm happy with it. Considering I played this game for hundreds of hours on the 3DS, this was a massive overhaul and upgrade for me. A lot of people weren't happy with it, but I certainly was. Now, with all of that being said, I do agree with the sentiment that this should have been brought up to 60 FPS. Considering the 3DS was basically running two 30 FPS screens simultaneously to give you 3D, there's really no excuse why they couldn't have given us 60 FPS on the Switch. The last thing I really want to mention is that it's really awesome to see a lot of these older monsters brought up with newer textures and newer animations, because I remember some of these from Monster Hunter Tri and even Monster Hunter Original before that, and it's really cool to see the extra work they put into them. So let's go ahead and do the conclusion now. Well, in conclusion, this game would have been really hard to recommend brand new. You had to have been like me and a true Monster Hunter fan to have wanted to play it. The $40 or $50 price point is a really hard buy for what it is. Now, considering you can pick this game up for close to 20 or 30 bucks, it's totally worth it, and I love having it as a physical, complete copy that goes into my library. It is by far the definitive version of how to play this game, and if you played it on the 3DS, this is definitely a no-brainer. It is a complete amalgamation of all of the great things of Monster Hunter, monsters, areas, villages, storylines, everything you can imagine all rolled up into one. And it really kind of set the precedence for the end of the chapter for them to start with Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter World. Those games truly feel completely new to me, and they're nothing like this. This is the end of old Monster Hunter, so go ahead and check it out. Well, that's gonna do it for today's review, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching today's video. It was a blast to make. I upload every single Monday. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day. This is Ogre27 Kane, signing out.